Am I the asshole for kicking out a crying baby from my wedding? I, 29F, and my husband, 30 Matters, got married a little less than a month ago. We are currently dealing with a lot of angry family members for what we did at our wedding. We originally planned a child-free wedding, and we informed all our guests that we will not have anyone under the age of 12 attend our wedding. My husband and I both have pretty large family, and being that we are the youngest of our generation to get married, most of our cousins had kids, under 12. Too many people complained and declined our invites, so we had no choice but to change our policy. Plus, my parents were upset to hear that there would be no kids. So as a compromise, they offered to pay the additional cost of meal and seating for kids to attend. On the new wedding invite, we made it very clear that kids should remain seated and quiet during the actual ceremony. But they were free to behave however they like outside the ceremony and at the reception. We even asked for parents of young children to temporarily excuse themselves if need be. This worry was coming from my cousin's wedding a few months ago. As she walked down the aisle, 3 young children ran up to her and started tugging on her dress. The parents unfortunately thought it was cute and asked my cousin to include them in the ceremony. Later that night, there were so many injuries to children because a few parents got drunk and could not handle their kids. We just didn't want a repeat of that. I know my family, and he knows his family, and we both have family members who unfortunately cannot control their own children. Anyways, it's day of the wedding and everything was going smoothly. My husband and I actually had our friends play bodyguard and keep an eye out for children interrupting the ceremony. Again, I want to emphasize that we just wanted order between me walking down the aisle to saying our vows and getting married by the officiator. That would be maybe 20 minutes. All other times we understood that kids will be kids. In the middle of my husband's vows, we heard a screaming baby go off. It was one of my husband's cousins. Everyone turned around to hear the noise. Thankfully, a friend of mine walked over to her and politely asked step away for the time being and return when the baby was calmer. My husband's cousin seemed irritated. At the request, and loudly yelled, "No, are you crazy? I'm family, I can't miss this." The baby kept crying and she refused to do anything. Unfortunately, what that had done was somehow tick off another baby in the crowd, and then we had 2 babies, crying loudly. The other parents did quietly leave, but my husband's cousin stayed put and started shaking her head annoyed. We tried to continue the vows, but it seemed like the crying was getting louder, and it was mixed with my husband's cousin, asking the people around her to mind their business and stop looking at her. My friends has enough, and they all sternly asked her to leave. The cousin then started yelling at my friends. This somehow turned into a huge discussion, but ended with the cousin storming off with the baby and her husband, and leaving our wedding early altogether. The rest of the line went somewhat smoothly, however, many people left early. My husband's aunt, mother of that cousin, also left, stating she felt disrespected for kicking her daughter out. She went on a rant on Facebook later about how we kicked out family from our wedding, even calling me a bridezilla. Other family members tried to convince us that the mischief of children are half the fun of weddings anyways. It seemed like we set a bad precedent by publicly asking someone to leave our ceremony. That's why I'm asking, am I the asshole for kicking out a crying baby from my wedding?